Welcome to Middle Fingers Up, the show where we hold our heads high and our middle fingers higher. I'm your host, Kieran McKay. Today we have a very, very special guest, and also we're breaking new ground on our show. We're thrilled to welcome our youngest guest ever, who's going to go by Teen B, just B, which is like a cool name to go by. I should have asked you earlier if you wanted to be called something else, but here we go. And I just want to say we are so excited that we have B here because we're going to learn their fresh perspective on topics such as how do parents and their kids build a better relationship. I think adolescents have a very challenging time. Many of us probably remember our teen years. We didn't blur out as much as we could. And I think it's a conversation that I keep hearing in many gatherings when adults are together. Just, are we doing a good enough job? Is there something we could be doing different? How can I be a better parent so that my child knows that I'm there for them? And even though those are our messages sometimes to our kids or the young people that we hang around, work with, live with, I think somehow communication can be a little complicated and the wires get crossed and it doesn't quite come out that way. So today I am very excited that B's here because I feel like their perspective is incredibly valuable. And we're also excited to hear their thoughts on the topics that maybe come up for B and their peers when they're together at school or hanging out, texting, doing their things, and leaving many of us parents wondering, what are our kids up to? So we're going to learn a little bit about what is it that parents and fellow teens can better do to navigate this crucial part of life. So I'm going to welcome you. Hi.
Hi. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for coming on. So I don't know if you knew that, but you're like the youngest ever guest to come on. So I'm glad it's you.
Yeah, this is very, very cool. So I'm very happy to be here.
Oh, I appreciate that. You were great when I asked you. I asked your mom first. When I reached out to you, you were so good at, because your mom was great too, at saying, well, let's see what B says. You were really good at saying, this is a cool opportunity. I really want to do this. And I know that for many previous guests that maybe have come on, it can be a pressure, right? Like we're recording something. So the fact that you agreed to be part of this means a lot.
Yeah. I think it's really important to open some people's eyes to how teenagers see things. So I thought it would be really fun and cool to talk about.
Let's do it. Yeah, let's do it. Let's it's like our little secret maybe, hey? And all the other listeners. Okay, so can I ask you, I know you said it was kind of cool, but when I asked you about this idea I had, what were your initial thoughts when I reached out?
At first, I was a little bit skeptical because I'm not really big on talking in general. So, I mean, I was like, do I really want to, or do I feel comfortable with it? But I thought about it and I was like, you know what? It's really important to talk about stuff like this because a lot of people don't realize how important it is to be able to understand other people of different generations or anyone different in general. So I just thought it would be really cool.
Yeah. That's well said. And also anyone listening, B is 14. So you're going to have to remember that because when you talk, you do not talk like you're 14. You talk in a way that is very clear. Kudos to your family, but also to you for, I can tell how you're growing, the things that you and I chatted really quickly about before this episode too. When I got off the phone with you, I thought, oh my goodness, I don't know if you hear this or, sometimes as parents, we don't always see this with our kids. But when I got off the phone with you, I told your mom, you guys are doing some really good stuff in your house. Maybe it doesn't feel like that at times. I don't know. I don't want to assume, but from the way that I have conversations with you, it's very inspiring. So hopefully we can inspire other adults listening today to think about things like you said in a different way. Hey? Okay, let's do a little activity here. We're going to do a little icebreaker. I'm going to ask you a question and you're going to answer it. And if you want, you can ask me too.
Okay.
I have a few written out here. So let's see. Okay, let's start with this one. This one gets asked a lot. If you could meet anyone living or dead, who would it be?
It would probably be the first person to invent homework.
Oh gosh, okay. Mm-hmm. Why?
We have beef. I don't appreciate their ideology on homework, and we need to have a very heart-to-heart conversation about why. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's say that's me. Let's say I got to go meet this person, and it was me. I invented homework. What would you say if I was sitting across the way with you here?
Let's leave the schoolwork to school because I don't want to bring it home. I want to go home, and I want to watch movies, and I want to sleep, not do schoolwork.
Yeah, because you've like been there for 6, 7, however many hours already all day. Mm-hmm. And now, do you feel that at your age, because you're in grade 9?
Yeah.
Do you feel that you're getting a lot of homework?
I mean, it depends on the class. For me, whatever we don't finish, we get for some classes. And other classes, they're like, okay, you have this homework to do for this amount of hours. And if you don't get it done, you get a 0. So it's kind of like, it really depends. But
yeah, it has to be worth it for you to not do and watch that movie, right?
Yeah.
And what, is it like an hour a night or a couple hours? Or?
I know on my first day of school, my science teacher, I love him now, but he gave us 4 hours of homework.
What?
And I was not very happy with him, but we're chill now, so it's okay.
He's okay. We can give him a shout out.
Yeah.
Shout out science teacher. There you go, right? That's a lot, by the way. Mm-hmm. That's a lot of homework.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know how you do it. I couldn't do that.
I don't know how I did it either.
Yeah. Like, what would be a fair amount of homework to get?
I feel like it depends on the classes because, you know, everybody has different struggles. For me, no math homework because math is my worst class.
Yeah, I'm with you.
But honestly, English homework doesn't really feel like homework because I really like English and I really like writing like essays. So it kind of doesn't. It just really depends. But like 30 minutes to 40 minutes every night, I think is a good time for homework.
That's fair, right? Mm-hmm. You only have so many hours in the day.
Exactly.
Right? And if you're not doing homework, what are you doing? What could we expect from you?
I just recently learned how to crochet.
Ooh.
So I've been doing a lot of that. I made a little ghost and his name is Jeremy.
Ooh, hello.
He's very, very cute. And I'm making some of my teacher's little ghosts, but definitely crocheting. Anything really artsy, I've always been into art. Any kind of art, painting, drawing, just anything.
Yeah.
Playing music on my saxophone or listening to music.
Yeah.
You know, kind of just relaxing and stuff. And a lot of movies and Roblox.
Ooh, okay. So like tell us a favorite movie and what comes up.
All-time favorite movie is definitely Coraline.
Oh.
And then my favorite movie series is the Saw series.
Oh my gosh, no way. Isn't there a new one coming out soon?
There is. It came out like 2 weeks ago. I was supposed to go watch it with my dad, but he needs to catch up.
Yeah. Oh, is he catching up on all how many are there out?
I think that was the 10th one that came out. So 9 other ones, but a lot of them aren't on Netflix. I was not very happy with that.
I have not seen one.
It's good.
Because I cannot handle anything scary. I feel like I've already had scariness in my life. Scary movies are not for me. And I think I tried to watch the first few minutes of the first or second Saw when it came out. And I was like, no, can't do this. So it's more gory, right?
Yeah.
Is it like a mind kind of like thriller?
I think, yeah, because it's definitely not kind of like a horror movie where it's like possession or like anything. It's very gory, very mind games. So.
Wow. Well, there you go. So you tell your dad, catch up. That's a lot of Saw movies to catch up on. Oh my goodness. Like, I feel like after every one, he'd have to watch a Disney movie or something.
Yeah. That's what I have to do. Like, I love horror, but if it's too late, I gotta watch some Mickey Mouse.
Yeah.
Sometimes I just gotta refresh.
Yeah, like change it up. I know. Anytime Carrie and I watch something intense, we're like, okay, now we gotta put Modern Family or something low-key on because that was a lot, right? So earlier you and I were talking about music. What are you into? Who do you listen to?
I think my music taste really depends on the day. Oh. Sometimes I listen to very chill kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And the next day I could be listening to like rap. Oh. And then the next day I'm listening to heavy metal. It's just like my playlist is very everywhere.
Like kind of like eclectic, like you have sort of all the genres.
Yeah, like one minute I'm crying to like the saddest song I've ever heard, and then Gangnam Style starts playing, and I'm dancing in my room at 1 a.m. and it's like, okay,
with tears coming down.
Oh yeah,
that's awesome. I've not heard that song in a long time.
It's been a while.
All right, that's a great song. We got to bring it back.
We should.
Right?
It's iconic.
It is iconic. It brought a lot of people at weddings together there for a bit. Because you also mentioned Taylor Swift wasn't one of your go-to musicians, which I thought, oh, that's interesting. Is that are you the uncommon or are you the common then? Because I thought all young people love T Swift or whatever we call her. I don't know.
Tay-Tay.
Is that her name? Tay-Tay?
That's what my friend
Tay-Tay.
She's so obsessed with her.
Does she? Yeah.
And man, sometimes she just does not stop. So I don't have personal beef, but man, when someone overtalks about Taylor Swift, I get so like I have to walk away. It makes me so irritated because I don't like hate her. Yeah. I just don't like her music personally, and people who make her their whole personality really get on my nerves.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah, it's very refreshing to hear a teen say that they're not a fan of Taylor Swift.
Yeah,
so
you don't hear it a lot. So
you really don't. I mean, it's very, very rare to hear adult women say they don't like Taylor Swift. So rare. So let alone a teen. So it's refreshing. I mean, I'm impartial. I think she's been in my face so much now that I'm like, I guess I like her. I like that song. I don't mind her, but I definitely would not pay the $1 billion you now have to pay to go see her in concert. I feel like you have to be a celebrity now to afford. Did you ever have friends that went to see Taylor Swift?
Yeah. Like my Tay-Tay obsessed friend went to see her. And it was just, I remember she sent me a video. She couldn't even talk after. She was screaming so much at the concert.
Yeah.
And she paid so much to go there for like, she stayed for like 2 days. And then had to come back home for school.
Yeah.
And it was, why?
Yeah.
Like, I just don't comprehend why you would spend that much money to see someone sing when you could listen at home. Yeah. Like, it's cool to go to a concert, but that much money?
Yeah, that's the thing. That's like, where you lose me too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you. That's good. Are there concerts that you've been to that you like?
I've only been to one, and that was like a long time ago. Yeah. But, I mean, concerts aren't really my thing. I don't really like loud places. Yeah. It gets overwhelming, so I like to stay at home and listen in.
Yeah? Okay, so what metal band are you into?
To go now, I don't really listen to heavy metal. Yeah. I kind of listen to more chill stuff. Yeah. But, you know, when the occasion pops at it.
Yeah. The mood, like you said, right? And I would imagine sort of like at your age group too, the mood is such a big thing because you guys are going through your like hormonal changes constantly for all genders. And so it's a lot, I would imagine. So definitely tears coming down, dancing to Gangnam Style makes a lot of sense to me going from song to song. I hear when I used to work with a lot of young people back in the day, I used to hear a lot of them talk about a comforting therapeutic thing always was music. It helps you go to sleep, also is very helpful to kind of, I think, change your mood or your mindset if you're kind of stuck sometimes in those like, oh, I'm really annoyed by this person or this thing that I'm doing or too much homework or whatever. Yeah. Would you say that too?
Oh, yeah. I always have my earbuds in.
Yeah, like I noticed when you got here, you had them in.
Yeah. So I don't really take them out a lot except for like, you know, sometimes just during classes. Depends on what teacher I have or like, I don't even know. Like I wear them like everywhere and I'm always listening to music. Even my friends or my parents, when I have them out, they're always checking and they're like, whoa, you don't have your earbuds in? I'm like, I know, right? Like, it's pretty crazy.
That's awesome. That's cool. All right. Okay. Well, we can go back to some of these icebreakers in a bit. I have a few more, but why don't we go do our middle fingers up segment? So what is something that you want to stand up to today and put your middle fingers in the most respectful, kindest way? I didn't obviously think that out when I decided to put the segment together. I never thought I'd have a 14-year-old sitting here. So here we go. Hey, your family was great at saying, yes, we understand you do the MFU segment, Kieran. So, but it's for a good cause. We're not running around throwing our middle fingers up. We're saying, what do we want to take a harsh stand to? And so I'm very curious to hear what it is that you brought today.
I would say probably I would put my middle fingers up to slow walkers.
Oh.
Yep.
Okay. There's a story, I feel. Something's going on here. What's happening?
So at school, very populated since my school is like a lot of kids.
Yeah.
And a lot of them are very slow walkers. So we have 5-minute breaks to get from one building to the next building. Yeah. Because our classes are always everywhere. And the slow walkers don't make it better. Yeah. They're just always in the way, and they're on their phones or they're talking to their friends, and it's like, I need you to get out of my way.
Right.
So I can go to class without, I don't like going to classes, but I don't like being late to classes. Yes. So it's, can you move?
Yeah. Please.
Yeah.
What do you do then? Do you say anything, or do you just sort of...
I make it obvious that I'm irritated with them, and then give them a look, and then walk around them.
Yeah.
So they're like, maybe next time I should walk faster.
Yeah.
Because, like, old people I get. If I'm walking behind an old person in the mall, it's like, okay. Like, you're a little older. I get it.
You earned this. You can walk as slow as you want.
Like, you've had your life of, you know. But, man, 18-year-old, 17, you're young. You can walk fast.
Yeah.
You're fine.
Yeah. I love that you brought that up, because Carrie and especially Terrence, our younger one, they have this thing where when you're at a red light stopped and you see people walking through the crosswalk, they always talk about the slow walkers, and they, you know, Terrence would say when we walk slow, it's like we don't have a sense of purpose or meaning. Don't we have somewhere to get to? Like when we walk that slow, we're just taking time that we don't need to take, and also hurry up because other people are trying to get through. So I think that's so funny that you feel that way as well. Also, now I'm like, what are you going to be like when you're driving? If this is how you are when you're walking behind people, what's it going to be like when there's a slow driver behind or in front of you?
It's going to be rough. I'll tell you that one.
Not for you, for them,
for the both of us.
Yeah. Because like, when can you start driving soon? Like, you're 14. Is that sort of happening now or not yet?
I mean, I kind of tried taking my learners twice, but I actually have to read the book so I can, you know, actually pass and be able to drive.
Yeah.
But man, when I'm on the road, people gotta go. I'm not waiting for people. I'm not gonna hit anybody.
Yeah.
But man, if you're going slow, I have no patience, because I'm the type of person where I don't like saying stuff to people.
Yeah.
Because I'm a very shy, kind of introverted person. But when someone gets on my nerves for something that I very strongly dislike, it's not good.
Yeah, I know.
That's just like any other introverted person. We're all really chill. We're quiet until you say something or you do something that really irritates us. And it's like, okay, we're done.
Yeah.
Just stop.
Now you're going to hear from me, kind of a thing.
Exactly.
Well, we'll see what happens here. Yeah. That was a good one. That was a good one. I'm going to put one of my middle fingers up with you to slow walkers as well. Unless if your doctor wrote you a note saying you should walk slow, right? Then fair. I was going to put my middle fingers today up to kind of similar to what we're talking about today. When adults, we forget what it was like to be teenagers for a second. And you can tell we've forgotten anytime we talk to our teenager and we have zero patience, or you're doing something for the first time. Maybe you just got a phone and you're learning phone etiquette and how to text or whatever you're supposed to do. And we're just like, get it. How come you didn't answer your phone? Or why aren't you doing this? Or you go to a friend's, maybe it's like a birthday or a sleepover. And again, this is something new. You're learning how to be away from your home. And why didn't you call me back? Or what happened? And I'm guilty of that a lot too, is getting impatient, and then it's remembering that, oh yeah, I remember being a teenager and it was not easy, and it was really, really hard sometimes to get the adults around me to understand what maybe I was going through. And sometimes I didn't know either, because I was like, I'm mad, I'm happy, I'm sad, I'm all the things. So I putting my middle fingers up to the forget that as adults we forget a lot what it's like to be. And I think when we can remember, like, how would I want my mom to talk to me when I was 14 can be helpful when I'm talking to my kid. Or sorry, I know you're 14, but my oldest is 12. So how would I want my mom to talk to me when I was 12? I have to remind myself that often, you know, so that I don't just start yelling or whatnot. So that's where my other middle finger is going to go up to. Do you have a personal experience or an example where maybe an adult in your life demonstrated like empathy and understanding, the opposite of what I'm saying, you know, sometimes I can do?
Yeah. So Last year, I just moved schools, so things were really rough for me, especially moving from a chartered to private school. And the academics are so high because it's preparing you for college. Yeah. And I remember I've always been a really slow learner. Like, I've always had difficulties learning. I've never been the top of my class. I've always been kind of down there because I learn differently from a lot of other kids. And I had this math teacher, and she was always so patient because math has always been my worst subject. And she was just always there, and she was always patient, and she would push my tests so she could give me extra help. And she would let me come see her after school at lunches for exam season and midterms. She let me stay after my exam so she could help me. And she understood what kind of learning I needed and taught me the way that I needed to be taught, and no one has ever done that for me. So it was really eye-opening to see that teachers sometimes actually do care and do understand how they can teach you better, and they can give you what you need. And for the rest of the year, math was my third best class. Hey. So it was very eye-opening to see that people can, change your perspective and show you that, you know what, you're not just dumb, you just learn differently. And I feel like that was one of my biggest insecurities, being a slow learner. But I kind of realized that, no, I'm not just a slow learner. I just learn in different ways than other kids do. Yeah. And it's okay to learn that way because teachers can help you and show you that you don't need to feel bad about yourself for learning differently. It's just you need some help to understand things your way.
Yeah. So that's really well put. And shout out to that teacher. I think that's like really inspiring. And it sounds like she really didn't give up. Mm-hmm. Yeah. She worked at your pace. She gave you a lot of time. Very patient. Yeah. And for something that you're not really enjoying or don't feel you have the skill set to do, to walk out of there feeling like, oh, like you said, it's not because I'm dumb. It's because I need to learn it different. Yeah. And I like how you said that because that's exactly what it is. And sometimes we miss that as adults, and we're humans. We're going to make mistakes. We're not perfect. Yeah. But sometimes when we miss that, kids walk away feeling like I am stupid or I am dumb or what's the point? Yeah. And I think the lesson there from your teacher is that adults got to try a little bit harder or different to be able to reach out like she did. So good for her. That's nice. I like hearing that. Cool. That's a reason why, she probably picked being a teacher, because sometimes some teachers are like, how did you decide to be a teacher? You don't like any of us ever. Exactly. Have you had those teachers?
Oh my gosh, so many.
Yeah. So that's rough. Okay. So when you and I were planning, let's fill everyone else listening in. When you and I were planning, we said, okay, if you or maybe you and I were going to write a guidebook for what parents need to know about their teens, and maybe it's not just parents, it's adults in general need to know about teens, what would the chapters be? And so we kind of organize these little chapters and let's go through them and see, I have a few here. You and I have sort of talked about some big things on your mind. And so let's see if you were kind of on the same page. And if we're not, I can tell. You'll tell me. So. Yeah. Okay. So the first thing that we have here is chapter 1. Let's say if this was chapter 1. Do you have a particular thing or topic that you'd want to be chapter 1? Because I have here understanding our world, which when I say our, I mean your world, like adolescence world. Yeah. Would you want that to be our first chapter?
Yeah, I think so.
Just starting there?
Yeah. Yeah. Start off easy.
Let's start off there. Okay. So if this chapter was about understanding a teen, young person, adolescence world, what are some of the biggest challenges and stressors you face as a teen today? Sorry, and maybe before you answer that, let's just set the stage. I also want everyone here listening to know that when B and I are talking, this isn't a personal conversation in the sense where you are always answering based on what's happening in your home or on a personal level, because we want to protect your privacy too. Yeah. This is in general. You did some homework, you talked to some peers and teens that you hang out with. And so you're here representing teenagers. You're not here just representing yourself.
Yeah.
So I just want to put that out there so people know that when you're answering, this has nothing to do with you and your household, but everything to do with, in general, what could an adolescent be facing?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah? Okay. So now let's answer that. So what are some of the biggest challenges and stressors young people or teens face today, would you say?
I feel like one of the biggest ones would definitely be not necessarily something that other people do, but other people say, mostly adults. I know for me, I constantly hear adults say, well, when I was a teenager, or I know when I was a teenager, so-and-so did this and it was okay. And I just said, well, you hurt my feelings. And they're like, oh, I'm so sorry. Because this is a different generation. A lot of adults are 20, 30, 40 years ago were teenagers. And it's like, well, that was like quite a bit ago. You need to understand that this is a whole new set of kids. Everybody is like, it's not like some of the teenagers when you were a teen stayed teenagers and are still teenagers and talking to us. It's like everybody is different and everybody is going through different things, and you can't just say to someone who's teasing you or being rude to you, oh, you hurt my feelings, and they're going to be like, I'm so sorry. Or you can't kill people with kindness anymore, because a lot of people don't take it like that. A lot of people take it as a joke and say, well, what are you going to do about it? Or say things like that. And it's now you can't always necessarily be nice to someone to get them to be nice back to you. And you need to set the perspective for them on how they're hurting you, and not in necessarily a gentle way always. And I'm not saying physically.
Yeah.
Like, you don't need to go and punch somebody if they're being rude, but just outsmart them. My parents say that to me a lot. Try and outsmart your peers so they can understand your perspective. And I feel like that's one thing that a lot of adults don't understand, that teenagers are different. We're all going through something different now.
Yeah.
Times are different. The internet, different school systems, different trends, fashions, anything in general. And it's just really hard to try and talk to someone about you standing up for yourself. And they're like, well, that was quite disrespectful for you to say that. And it's like, well, there's nothing else I could have said for them to understand what they were doing to me unless I said it like that.
Yeah. So I think you make a really good point about that, is that sometimes adults feel like they're trying to connect to a teen. And so it comes out, well, when I was your age, this is what I did, or kill people kind. These sorts of values, like kill people with kindness, be kind, just look the other way. And I agree with you. I think a lot of the ways many of us were brought up was just, have you ever heard of that saying, like, sweep it under the carpet?
Yeah.
Right? So like, and kind of like avoid it.
Yeah.
So because I don't want to, we don't want to like challenge someone, hurt someone's feelings. So just, maybe they're having a bad day, let them say the bad thing and move forward. But what I hear you saying is, that's one example. What I hear you saying though is it's hard to share how you're feeling or the experiences you as a young person are going through when adults are saying things like, I've already gone through that too. I remember my time. What you're saying is like, let me experience my thing.
Yeah.
And you don't have to relate to it. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Exactly.
Like, maybe you did go through it, but it's not helpful for me to hear you went through. I don't need you to connect to me about that.
Yeah. And not in a disrespectful way where it's like, ew, I don't want you to relate to me. It's in a way where it's like, you might have gone through a similar thing, but it's not the exact same because times are so different, like I said before. And I understand. And when adults say that to me, I say, I understand that you went through something similar, but what I'm going through is not the same what you've gone through.
Because you're a different person.
Exactly.
Right? You and I could have both gone through bullying. I did go through bullying as a kid. Let's say maybe you did. So we had a similar experience, but how it affected me is going to be different than how it affected you.
Yeah.
And you're asking us adults to acknowledge that.
Exactly.
And give you the space to actually share how you, the human you are going through that. Okay, that's a good one. I like that. in the realm of understanding your world in chapter 1 here, we talk about challenges and stressors about being a kid today or teen today. Is there anything else that you would add to that?
I feel like another big stressful thing is definitely safety as a teen.
Yeah.
I feel like you can't really do things anymore without having people worried about you being kidnapped. Or I remember I went to Screamfest like 2 weeks ago with my friends, and all these adults, I told them, and they were coming up to me like, oh, well, be careful. Someone might inject you and make you paralyzed. And
what?
Like, I don't know. Or like someone's going to kidnap you. You got to be careful. And honestly, at first I was like, it's never going to happen. But once I really sat and kind of thought to understand, that is the sad reality of the world now. You are never safe wherever you go. No matter if you're a guy or a girl or whatever else, you're never safe.
Yeah.
Especially adults, they aren't safe, but they're bigger, they're older, they can defend themselves. And I'm saying that with air quotes because it's like, it could be different. But I know as a teenager, safety is a big thing. And I know now I don't feel as safe as I did 4 or 5 years ago, even before then, because things were, a little tamed.
Yeah.
But now it's so everywhere where it's like, well, what's going to happen next? If I step out of my house and go to the mall, am I going to get kidnapped?
Yeah.
Is someone going to touch me in a way where I don't want to be touched? And it's the worst because you can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
Because a lot of teenagers struggle with confronting to adults about things because we're embarrassed, even because we think it's our fault that something like that happened, when it's not our fault at all. Yeah. And I know a lot of friends that have been, touched in certain ways that they don't want to be, or had anything like that happen to them, and they always blame themselves. And I feel so bad for them. And I'm lucky enough to be one of the teens that have ever happened to me.
Yeah.
But they have. And listening to them talk about it, they make it seem like it's their fault when it's not at all. Yeah. But they always they blame themselves, and they say, well, if I didn't go out, that would have never happened. You should have been able to go out without that ever happening to you. That's the person that did it's fault, not you. You should be able to go downtown and have fun with your friends, or go to the mall without having someone touch you up.
Yeah.
So I just feel like safety is a big thing now, which a lot of people do look for, but not in the sense that we need it.
Yeah. Listen, that's a really, really good point, the safety piece. And when you talk about the things that adults are saying to work, be careful, be careful, be careful, it's clear adults are also worried about safety. And whether it's a teacher, grandma, parent, whoever that's around a young person trying to protect them, I hear you. The way it comes out is fear.
Yeah.
So when we're afraid, when I'm an adult and I'm afraid, it's going to come out towards my kid in a way that's going to show them the fear. And what I hear you is a lot of you guys are taking that with you and saying, okay, now we have to be afraid.
Yeah.
You've put all these ideas in my head about what to be afraid of. And I'm not saying that as adults, we shouldn't be educating you and teaching you. Like, I think it is our job to help you
understand.
Yeah. That when you do catch a bus, what are possible things that could happen, and how are you prepared? Is your phone charged? Do you have a phone charger?
Yeah.
Do you have the money? What if somebody sits next to you? Do you have like an exit strategy? These are important things to help teach each other and young people. But the fear that parents have, it sounds like it's almost paralyzing you guys in a way of,
a lot.
Yeah, now the worst thing possible is going to happen. The other thing I just want to quickly circle back to is these friends that you're talking about, have they talked to adults about these incidents?
They have, but like I said before, we kind of get embarrassed about it, so it takes a while to talk about it. They have eventually, but sadly it took time to have it get to an adult figure. So
okay, then I'm going to ask you something, because I'm very sorry that's happened to your friends, and that's not acceptable. And you are absolutely right. It does not matter who you are, what age you are. You have every right to leave your house and not have to worry about being touched. And if that ever happens, it does not matter. Again, I'm talking to anyone and everyone, your age, my age, every age in between. I understand that there is fear because you're making a good point about sometimes as young people, you feel it's your fault.
Yeah.
And that's a message we have to help young people and adults understand is not your fault.
Yeah.
You can show up somewhere, you can talk to someone, all these things can happen, and you should be able to have those kinds of experiences without being touched in a way that makes you feel unsafe.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you, your friends that did eventually get to the place where they talk to adults about this, what is something that adults in your guys' lives could do better so that you don't have to wait that long to come to us to tell us about something so terrible that has happened?
I feel like there's not really tons adults can do because it's not necessarily the adult's fault that the kids aren't going to them about it. It's more how we're just embarrassed to say anything. So I feel like it's just be patient when your kid or your niece or nephew or any teenager or child comes up to you and tells you about an experience like that. Just feel glad that they trusted you enough to be able to come to you, and don't get mad at them or don't make them feel uncomfortable, even if it's like unintentionally. And another big thing is don't ask what they were wearing when it happened. That is such a big thing.
Okay, so I have an idea where you're going, but I want to hear this from you. Why are you saying that?
Clothes can't control what other people's actions end up being. It doesn't matter if you're wearing a spaghetti strap, a crop top, a hoodie, jeans, shorts, a bathing suit. It shouldn't matter because something that terrible should never be influenced by anything. It shouldn't even happen. But clothes definitely should not be something that it's blamed on. Someone should be able to go out in shorts and a crop top during the summer and not have all eyes on them or have people come up to them. People like little kids or teenagers should be able to go out in sweats and jeans or crop tops or shorts, anything, and not have to constantly feel like they're uncomfortable, and they have to be careful on who they surround themselves by.
So when that gets brought up and, you know, a young person is asked, well, what were you wearing? When we ask that question, what are we really doing in that moment for you?
We take it as an insult and making us think, well, I can never wear that again.
Or that it was your fault.
Exactly. That leads and ties into the fact that it makes us think it's our fault. It starts making us ask questions like, well, what if we never wore that? What if we didn't put that on? We shouldn't be asking ourselves, what if we didn't? We should be saying, what if they didn't?
Yeah. I'm a woman, so I'm definitely 100% with you on this part about this continues to happen as a grown woman too. Yeah. You know, like people will say, well, why did you dress that way? Or why do you dress that way? And people own their own body.
Exactly.
I do not own my children's bodies. From the minute they are born, those are their bodies. I'm responsible for them. I'm responsible to make sure that, you know, they're safe and nothing inappropriate to the best of my ability happens. But as they get older, especially the older you in your age, you own your body. And I agree in that we really have to change how old-fashioned it is and way, way left field to focus on the clothing of someone, because we are then continuing to send the message that that victim deserved to have that happen, made that happen to themselves, made the choice when they wore the crop top or whatever. And we have to stop doing that. Yeah. Because then you're going to continue to stop talking to us. Yeah. And as we're there to teach you as a young person, now you're going to grow up as an adult and think, oh yeah, I can't tell people. Yeah. Because obviously it's my fault.
Clothes don't give consent.
Exactly.
That's the biggest thing that I will forever stand by. No matter what you're wearing, it doesn't give it consent. No means no. That's not consent. Maybe most of the time means no. That a maybe isn't consent. No. Crying, that's not consent. Telling someone to get away isn't consent. Trying to run away isn't consent. The only form of consent is when someone says yes.
And they can change their mind too.
Exactly. And it's respectable. And if someone does end up changing their mind, just understand. Yeah. If someone ends up saying no, no is no, and that's it. don't try and push them to make them change their mind, or don't try and convince them. No is no, and that's that.
Yeah, exactly. That's a huge stressor because we're still on chapter 1. So I don't even know if we're going to get through all these chapters, but maybe we'll go through some of these other ones and come back if you think of other challenges and stressors along the way, because we'll break it down. Yeah. If we go to chapter 2, let's say, think of chapter 2 as communication. You talked about understanding the stressors and the challenges that some young people may go through. And I think maybe the next piece, it's sort of coming to, is communication, because we just ended this last piece about how easy it is to close doors when it comes to conversation by saying things like you shouldn't have worn that or what. So if we go talk about communication and how important that is, let me ask you, how can parents or adults improve communication? So let's go with one thing a parent or an adult could do to improve communication with their teenager.
Let your teenager finish talking and finish explaining their side instead of interrupting and raising your voice. When you are in an argument, don't raise your voice, because we tune that out. We don't listen because we don't like being yelled at. Nobody likes being yelled at. So when you yell at us, it's an instant, we meet you. We're not listening anymore. You're yelling. All we see is your mouth moving. That's it.
You're so right. I'm only laughing because as you're talking, I'm like, oh man, B, you're so right. I need to be better at this. And I know a lot of other people listening are probably like, but you're right. Being loud doesn't make you right.
Yeah.
And sometimes we get worked up and get louder, and being able to finish is a form of respect, being heard in that way.
Yeah.
Is that like if you and I were going to have a heated conversation about something, let's say, why didn't you do your homework? If I'm yelling at you and raising my voice and not letting you finish, that is what for you? Like you're done the conversation in that moment, right?
Yeah.
So what could I be doing different instead of raising my voice?
You could take a second to breathe and just think about how the words that you're using, how you're communicating, and how we're probably not listening. So it's a waste of your energy and a waste of our time for you to yell at us. You can just take a minute to calm down and lower your tone, because we tend to listen to that more than anything.
Yeah.
So that's
very well said. So back to communication, what would be the best way for parents to approach difficult conversations or like a sensitive topic with their teenager?
I feel like first, instead of setting a punishment first thing, like if your teenager snuck out and they lied to you and they went to sleep over at their friend's house without telling you, don't start off with, oh, you're so grounded, and then continue to talk, because right after that, it's just like yelling. We're not going to want to listen, because it doesn't matter what comes out of your mouth afterwards. We already know we're grounded, so it shouldn't matter anyways. A big thing is start asking questions like, why did you do that? What was going through your head when that happened? You could have come to me about it, and then you can explain why you said no. And a thing about that, saying because as an answer, or saying I'm your parent, I know what's best, just doesn't make us want to understand.
Yeah.
It's not an answer.
Well, you're not going to win because I'm the adult. I have more power in this conversation. Yeah. And the minute I remind you of my power by saying, well, I'm your mom, or I'm the adult here, then you probably, I would imagine, would like, what's the point then?
Exactly.
Like I've just told you you've lost.
So there's no point in continuing the conversation.
Right. What are you going to do? Try to fight that back.
Yeah.
Right. You said something in there that I thought was really, really good. So when you said to ask more questions first to get the information, what I heard you really saying is like, we need to be more curious.
Yeah.
Because sometimes we enter a conversation like we already know the answer. So then why are we even asking you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So and also what you're sort of telling us right now is you're telling us that, it's so funny. You're telling us that as adults, we should be helping you by asking these questions. It's called building insight.
Yeah.
So you're building your thinking brain. Sometimes you do stupid things and you think about it later and you think, oh yeah, I probably shouldn't have stuck out of my window, probably shouldn't have done those things. But as a parent, if I can help you get there, because at the end of the day, that's what I want too.
Yeah.
I want you to not sneak out of your bedroom again.
Yeah.
Right? That's not safe for any of us. But yelling at you or scaring you by saying there's creepy predators out there, as we talked about in the last chapter, is not helpful because you're already freaked out as it is.
Yeah.
So by asking you more questions, I'm being curious about why would my kid think that's the best decision?
Yeah. Like what's going through your mind? That's another question. What was going through your mind when you decided to do that?
That's a good one. I like that. What was going through your mind when you decided to do that?
Because what it does is not only, because in the moment when we do things, we do it it's like a spontaneous most of the time. So we don't really think. But when you ask questions like that, like what was going through your mind when you decide to do that? It gets us thinking, what was going through my mind? Why did I do that in the end? Like, why was that the decision that I made?
Yeah.
And then we understand what we did was wrong sooner than you saying, that was so disrespectful. I can't believe you did that. Yeah. It just, because that doesn't make us think. That just says, oh, we did it, but we don't understand what we did until you ask us those questions.
But once you think about why would I do that, like what would make me want to do that, then you might be able to get to the place of realizing why that was disrespectful on your own, instead of me just saying, B, that was dumb and disrespectful.
Yeah.
If I ask you the questions, it's better for you to get to the place of, that was dumb and that was disrespectful, and I'm just using those words, but whatever the reason is. And, you're making a good point. You're saying spontaneous. So it's very true. Young people, you and I talked about this before, like teenagers' brains are going through overdrive, and your brain is doing, it's a second time in your life, your brain is doing the most amount of growing in a short period of time. The first time, as you and I talked, was when you were an infant, a baby, clean brain. There's nothing on there. Every interaction is your brain building.
Yeah.
Now, when you're a teen, your brain is flushing out all the things that you don't really need to know anymore that you did as a baby. Your brain's like, I haven't used that thing in 5 years. If anyone's seen Inside Out, you'll remember that when they go to the file room and there's all these memories that are going away. Yeah. It's called pruning, and your brain is now at a place where it's learning new things as a teenager. And you call it spontaneous. We call it being impulsive.
Yeah.
And it's not you're a bad person. It's just your brain hasn't developed enough to be able to first start with, is that the best decision for me to sneak out of my bedroom at midnight? Once your brain does that and you keep doing that, that's a different conversation we'll have. But right now, I think it's important, you're right, as parents, is like you don't really know why you're doing it until after, and we could be helping you figure that out by asking those questions.
Yeah.
Right? So that's good. That's a good chapter. And I'm sure we'll come back to communication again soon. The other question was, okay, let's talk about boundaries. Chapter 3. Okay? Respecting them. You've been talking a lot about boundaries. As we've been talking, like the underlay of what I'm hearing is you guys need your boundaries and we as parents need to respect them.
Yeah.
What boundaries do you wish parents understood better for adolescents?
I feel like one kind of generalized is just that boundaries actually are a thing. It's not kind of just something that we make up because we don't personally like you or we don't want to. It's just things that make us comfortable and uncomfortable, and it's not something we can control. It's just, for example, touch is a big one for some people, or saying certain things that make people uncomfortable, or being around certain people. Like if you're with your parents and they're with a group of friends that make you uncomfortable, you shouldn't have to stay there just because your parents want to be there with their friends. You should be able to sit in the car, or you could have stayed home. And it's just the little things that show us that if you can respect our boundaries, you can show us, that's showing us the respect that we need. Because a lot of us have a mindset where if people earn my respect, I don't give it for free anymore. Because now you can't just give anyone your respect. People have to earn it. They have to be able to show you that you can respect them if they respect you back. And that's something that I will forever live by, that respect is earned, not given.
Yeah.
And if you can show us that you respect our boundaries, which is just one of the small categories of respect, that generalizes to being able to respect a lot of other things for us. Yeah. And that we can give you the same respect that you've given us.
Yeah, I think that's fair. So then help me understand. So how can parents or adults strike the perfect balance, or close to perfect as we can be, the right balance, I guess, between giving you freedom or independence and ensuring your safety. And we sort of talked about safety earlier.
Yeah.
So now that we're actually talking about the boundaries, so how do we help you guys have the right balance of you're getting older, you need independence, but with independence means I know less and less and less.
Yeah.
I'm sure when you were younger, your parents knew all the things about you, almost everything.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the relationship. And then you start becoming a teenager and wanting and needing independence, which is very, very important for teens.
Yeah.
There should be independence.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have time to yourself and figure these things out. But how do we help protect? Okay, let's say you're my kid, you're going to go to the party. Thank God you didn't sneak out the window. We made a game plan. Now you're going to go to a party. But my first thing is, again, safety. And now I've learned, because I'm reading this book that you're writing, and I've learned that I don't want to make my kid more fearful by saying things like, don't drink the drink and don't talk to those people and don't do this, and scaring the crap out of you. I want to help you be prepared. So where's the line for me as a parent to say, okay, see you later, but still being able to know, where are you going? When will I see you? Who are you with? Those things to ensure that we've prepared. Like, where's the line, I guess?
I feel like it's really hard to be able to have freedom and be safe now at the same time. A big one would definitely be, I know a lot of my friends have them and their parents share the locations on their phones, because a lot of them, I know one of my good friends has a very open relationship with her parents. So they have her location, she has theirs all the time, and they're always being able to communicate with each other so she can do more things. She knows where they are, and it's very open. And then for other people, it's very difficult because sometimes their parents don't let them do stuff that they should be able to do, and they have to either make decisions that aren't always the best, like sneaking out or getting a friend to drive you or lying about where you're going. And it's just, you can never have a good meeting point. So it just really depends on the person and their relationship with the parent.
Yeah, you're right. That's a good point. Is really well said. Is okay, looking at our own house and looking at where's my comfort. I think as an adult, I have to also consider, how was I raised? I grew up in a home that was strict. Mm-hmm. So maybe because I didn't go do a lot of things as a teenager, I don't understand what might be normal, quote unquote, for my kid today.
Yeah.
And sometimes, that's an example of having a big gap between your kid, because I grew up this way, like we talked about at the beginning, and my kid's growing up a different way.
Yeah.
So I think as an adult, it's understanding, first of all, things were different for me.
Yeah.
But now we're talking about my kid, not me. Mm-hmm. And if I'm not comfortable with, let's say, my kid going to parties, let's say that's what it is, I have to start to figure out why. That same kind of questions you want us to ask you, I have to ask myself, what is it about that makes me feel uncomfortable? What could I be in charge of? What could my kid be in charge of? What's out of our control?
Yeah.
And maybe it is a really dangerous thing they want to go do. And it's like, nope, we're not going to do that because that's way too unsafe. However, I think as adults, we have to understand we're not going to know every single thing about our kid. It's like grieving a process. So, when someone passes away, someone dies, we grieve and we grieve different. Maybe you cry, maybe you don't, maybe you need time alone. We all have different ways that we would mourn the loss of a loved one or a pet. And those feelings of grief, we don't always have to lose someone to death to feel those. Yeah. And sometimes as a parent, we feel this grief because we have this cute little baby that loved us and wanted us all the time. Then this baby started walking and always wanted to be near us. Then this baby was so cute and started kindergarten, going to school, and always wanted us around. And then this baby is in, middle school and kind of sort of still wants us around, but I can help this kid want to be around more.
Yeah.
Now, all of a sudden, my kid's a teenager and it's so different.
Yeah.
That's called grieving because we're so used to one way. And we as parents have to also understand our kid is changing.
Yeah.
It's not personal, like you said earlier, right? That's what we're getting at?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah? Anything you want to add to that?
No, I totally agree.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, boundaries, again, we're talking about understanding your world, communication, boundaries, which, again, I'm sure we'll keep coming back to. Let's hit up Chapter 4, school and pressure. Is that something that would be in this book, you think? School and pressure?
I feel like that would be one of the biggest chapters.
Yeah, it's a thick one. It's like a book on its own.
Yeah.
How can parents support their kids' academic goals without adding to the pressure?
So I was thinking about this one a lot at home. And I know it's definitely, like I said, one of the biggest ones there. But I feel like since we do go to school for like 6.5 hours, 7 hours, all day working, and then we come home, it's similar, not the same, of course, to adults working, because, you know, adults have to get money and they have to pay for taxes and be able to pay for food. But schooling is similar to work in a way where we go to work, and I'm saying that with air quotes, as in like, you know, all day. And then we come home just like you do. And sometimes parents bring their work home to finish. We bring our school work home to finish. We work on it for 2 hours, 3 hours, and then that's the schoolwork. And then we have exams to study for. Every school is different, but I know for me, I have at least 3 to 4 tests a week. So I always have tests that I have to be studying for. I always have something to do. And that doesn't include finals, midterms, any bigger tests. That's just the basics. Once midterms roll around in December, January, you have the in-school work, the at-home school work, the studying for other tests. Because midterms, still give you other tests. Like, we'll say the smaller tests and then exams. And you have those things to study for. And depending on how well you are doing in school, it can be hard. You could be an A+ student and just have to do a brisk over the units. And there's also students that really need help and they need to take the extra time and they need to see people. And that takes a while. And we're not always as prepared if we need to take a longer time for the exams or for the schoolwork. And our days are just as long as yours. We get up early too. We go to school, right? Some of us have before school things. Like I have to be at school every Tuesday and Thursday, 6:50 in the morning for band. And then right after I have classes all day, which are an hour and 30 minutes. Because high school schedule, they're longer. Mm-hmm. So it takes a toll and we're always more tired because those classes we're sitting in a desk for an hour and a half.
Right.
Just taking notes and listening to the teacher talk. Then we have 40 minutes for lunch and then we have 2 other classes that are an hour and a half. Mm-hmm. And it drags on a lot and then you drag it on and you bring it home. So when we're tired, when we're in the car and we're not striking a conversation up with you, it's not because we're like, oh, you're so weird, I don't want to talk to you. It's because we just went to school. We had all these assignments. We worked on these projects. We had presenting. We had these tests we wrote. It's because of that. We drag it because we're tired. And then we go home and we have to do all of that stuff. And those are only for the 4 core classes. For me, I also have Spanish that I have to study for. I have gym assignments for health, which is, I think, really dumb.
That I've never heard of gym assignments.
Right? And then I have band, which is an option. I have band homework and I have this semester digital design homework. So I have 4 other classes that I have to study and do homework for, and I have tests in some of them, and then I have my 4 core classes. Yeah. So those are 8 classes in total that we have to prepare for. So when we drag and don't strike a conversation, don't take it personal. Yeah. It's just because we're tired. Yeah. And on the weekends, when we choose to relax, if we even get the free time, don't call us lazy for not cleaning our room. Don't get mad at us because we couldn't get out of bed or we slept in late. We're trying to save our energy because we know we have a long week that we're going to get like 4 hours of sleep each night because of all this work. Just give us our time.
Right. It's a lot. And I think when you say it, like we have to go to school like you have to go to work too. And we bring our work, quote unquote, home like you. I think, oh yeah, I know that feeling for myself when I have to get up and go to work. Maybe I don't feel like, maybe it's Monday. Mondays are hard. I don't want to go to work, but I do, let's say, and then I got to go do all this stuff. And then I got to come home and keep working. Some people, you're right, have to keep working. And sometimes as an adult, I also don't want to strike a conversation, but I understand that better because I think my priorities are important.
Yeah.
And I think what I hear you saying is don't forget, we're not providing for the house in the same way, but it's also not a competition.
Exactly.
And it's also understand you have your fair share of responsibility you're trying to get through.
And we're so much younger than you. So all of this work is just as much for us as it is for you. Because it's like teenagers are supposed to get 7 to 9 hours of sleep every night or whatever it is. And we can't because of all this work. So if we're tired, there shouldn't be questioning because we're going to school and doing all this work.
Right. And I think the other reminder, because sometimes for some people, it's like science seems to help understand, because sometimes for people, it's very hard to not see a teenager being behavioral. Like sometimes we forget and we think you're just choosing to be moody and you're just choosing to be attitudey and all that stuff. And sometimes, okay, maybe you are. We all have sass, but a lot of times it's not that. And I think we forget that you guys, like we said earlier, your brain is going through such a big life development. And just like when you were infants, you need that sleep in the same way because you're growing and you're developing. And I think there is always that term that we throw out of comparing you to being lazy. And you said it too, like, please don't call us that. And I think sometimes we have to remember, is it the will or is it the skill? Because like we always just assume it's lazy, that you know how to do everything and you're just being lazy.
Choosing not to.
And even if that's not cleaning your room, it's like, okay, what could we do then as parents, knowing that you have this kind of pressure to make it feel lighter at home or invite you to do, because there are things we're going to have to do together. You might have to take the garbage out or clean the toilet or whatever, chores and things we all do, right? You guys live on property. You have horses and all this sorts of stuff. So I'm sure you have to participate in helping, the creatures and animals and all that yard work. So you will figure out all that. But the point is, we all have things outside of work and school we still have to do as a family to get through
the basics.
Right. So what could we as adults do to make it doable, I guess? Is there something we could do or say in a way that helps acknowledge that for you?
I feel like a big thing is probably just when you ask, just ask in a way where it doesn't sound aggressive. Being aggressive is not the way to get us to do something. If I have a long day at school, I'm super tired, I have a Spanish test, a math test, and a science test to study for, and I have all this homework, I don't want someone to come into my room, slam my door open, and be like, you need to take the garbage out, and I need you to offload the dishes. Do it now, because I'm not going to want to do it after. I feel like one of the biggest things for us is, if we're told to do something in advance or have a board, for me at least, I feel like I feel more accomplished when I do it on my own. When somebody doesn't tell me to do it, I just do it because then it's like, oh, I did that by myself. I didn't need anyone to tell me what to do. It just makes us feel better. It's like holding a door open for someone. It's not like we're expecting anything in return. We're just being nice. And then we get that feeling where, oh, I did something nice today. I made someone's day. It's just this stuff like that, because then we feel more accomplished instead of having someone tell us, do the dishes, do the laundry, and take the garbage out.
Right.
If we get up on our own and do it, okay, I did that. On my own, by myself.
How do I, and I'm sure other parents are listening, how do I help you think of that on your own? Because I think that's very unique. And I think kudos to you for thinking like that. I don't know very many young people that do that, where they think of those things on their own, because like you said, your brain's full of all the other things you have. You got to do saxophone, you got to do school, you got to do this, this, and this, right? But you want to be able to give them the opportunity to do it before someone's like, go empty the, let's say, dishwasher. What are some things parents can do to help their kids be a sort of like a leader or make that choice on their own, versus saying, go do it, go do it, go do it.
Yeah. So for us at home, we have a to-do list for the week, a board. So we write things down. So if I'm walking in the kitchen going to get a snack and I see something that I have to do, a chore that's under my name, I'm like, oh, maybe I should get that done. And at first, start slowly, where it's kind of reward, but not reward as in give your child something. But if they do something on their own, don't say, oh, well, finally, Like, I'm glad you did that now. Be like, oh, like, proud of you for doing that on your own. Thank you.
Yeah.
And you don't have to do that every time, but just at the beginning, you can start saying, oh, I'm so proud of you. Thank you for doing that without me asking, because it makes us feel better. We're doing a good deed on our own.
Yeah.
So just start off like that, and eventually it'll become a habit. It's just like brushing your teeth, flossing, washing your face. It becomes a habit gradually, and it's just stuck in our brain at some point where it's like, oh, I should probably do this.
Yeah.
And our parents couldn't even, like, at this point, my parents don't even have to be home for me to do something.
Yeah.
Because they don't have to thank me afterwards. If I offload the dishwasher without the masking, I don't need them to come up to me when they get home and say, oh, thank you for offloading the dishwasher. I just do it without having to be praised for it.
Yeah. Again, very well said. I think what I really like about what you said there was the piece about looking for moments in the day where we see you guys doing these things. I think you do a lot of good things throughout the day, and we get caught in our list of stuff, and we don't always notice it. And I also hear you saying, you're not saying all the time, make sure, thanks for cleaning the toilet, thanks for cleaning the toilet. But it's very helpful when you're learning a new task that we're rewarding that good stuff instead of focusing on the fact that you didn't do it. Every time you did, focusing on the positive. And that's going to invite you to want to go back and do it again. But if I keep saying you haven't done it, then that's likely not going to motivate you to want to do it. So I hear you. Like, we need to be more positive, and positive reinforcement, meaning like finding the good things you guys are doing. Is there an ideal way, just to back to school and pressure, is there an ideal way for us parents to be involved in your education? Is there something is there a better way? Because, you guys have meetings and there's all these parent-teacher interviews, and we have an opportunity to volunteer for events and stuff. And some kids are not into that. Some kids are. And then there's some of us parents that really are not involved, that have no clue what's going on in our kids' school. So there's extremes, right? So what would be the ideal involvement with the school?
I feel like going to parent-teacher, if your child asks you to go, is definitely one of the big things. Because if we ask you to go, that means our teachers are going to say something that we're proud of what we did. And a lot of teenagers only want our parents to be proud of us, but sometimes we don't realize it. We lash out and do things and get upset when our people aren't, but we just want people to be proud of us.
Yeah.
So if we do something and we want you to go see, try and clear your schedule, try and make the effort to go, because it shows that you are putting in an effort for us, like we're putting in effort to make you proud of us.
Yeah. And it's part of that piece you said about earning respect too, I would imagine, right? Yeah. Showing up for the important things for you helps me earn the respect with you, right?
Because it shows that you care.
Yeah. Good. Okay, let's go to chapter 5. Friends and relationships. Would that be in the book?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
What do you guys want your parents to know about your friendships and maybe romantic relationships?
I feel for friendships that there are a lot of friendships that go sideways, and that it doesn't need to be a constant bring up, like something that you would constantly talk about. Because if we didn't want to talk about it, we wouldn't talk about it. If we do, then we would. So if we don't bring up a past friendship, don't bring it up. If we have a current friendship that's iffy and we don't talk about it, don't bring it up. We'll tell you when we're ready. And when we have good friends, you know that there are good friends when we actually let them meet you.
Oh, yeah.
Because a lot of friends that I've had, I haven't really gotten close to them to the point where I would let them meet my parents.
Yeah.
Or give them my parents' time, because my parents are busy people.
Yeah.
They're always working and they're doing their best, and I wouldn't want to waste their time on someone that shouldn't earn their time, and I definitely don't want to waste my time on someone who doesn't earn my time.
Right.
So that's for the friends bit. And then for relationship wise, I feel like you can never be too young to love in a way, but not to a certain extent. Like, it's, it's cute when little kids are like, I don't know, in 3rd grade and they're holding hands and they're a little couple, and it can go to teenagers being in relationships. And I feel like a big thing tying back to trust is that you should be able to trust your child with their partner without having to feel uncomfortable. And a lot of the time, if you have a gut feeling, then tell your kid. I know me and my mom with relationships or friends, whenever she comes to me and tells me she has a bad feeling about someone, I know that we're not meant to be friends or not meant to be together, because something about moms, they just always know.
Their intuition, right?
Yeah, I remember I had this one friend in 4th grade. My mom comes to me and she's laying in my bed telling me a story, and then she's like, I don't think that friend of yours is someone you should be hanging out with. And at first I was so upset because she was my best friend. Yeah. And I was like, Mom, what are you talking about? Go away. I can't believe you said that. But then after we stopped being friends, I went to my mom and I was like, you were right. Aww. And ever since then, it's just being friends with someone. Whenever my mom's like, oh, I don't get a good impression, I stop being friends with them, because she knows, she can tell. Yeah. So it's kind of just, I feel like a big thing is just being able to communicate. Back to communication.
Yeah. Oh, there we go. Back to chapter 2.
To communicate and understand each other and open your mind, not only parents, but teenagers. Because I was very close-minded, and then that friend ended up hurting me, and if I listened to my mom, it wouldn't have happened. Yeah. So now you just kind of have to trust. There's a big thing for trust in relationships and friendships.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think you're also learning these relationships and friendships, and so just like learning a new device, and so you're going to make some poor choices with some friends, make some really good ones, and then hopefully make more good ones. And even in a relationship, if you're in a household where parents are supporting dating or whatnot, I think when you learn what it's like to date and those things at your age, it can help as you move forward, as you get older, of, okay, this is what consent is. This is what safety is. And I think it's just like friendships and relationships they're always interesting, because we learn a lot about, I know as a parent, I learn a lot about my kids when their friends come over. Yeah. And I'm really grateful. I mean, Xander has like really great friends, like shout out to all of his friends. And when those guys come over, they'll come and hang out with me too, or hang out with Carrie, and we talk. And it's really nice to be able to have that kind of a dialogue, because I don't know if you feel this way, but sometimes I think some young people feel more comfortable with their friends' parents than maybe with their own parents.
Yeah, that's huge. Yeah.
And that's not personal.
No, it's just that our parents react to things differently than a closer friend's parents would, because our parents are looking out for us and they're on our backs, not in a bad way necessarily, but they're on us about doing this and doing that and being safe. And our parents' friends are more, I'm going to say, understanding, because they're not your parent. You're not their kid. So they don't have that responsibility, even though they still care. Yeah. It's just they're more open to ideas that your parents would be.
Do you guys get upset or care when your friends' parents and your parents, will text each other or check in and, hey, my kid was over. How was that? Or, sometimes there's some moms, we have a little group chat because our kids are always hanging out. How do you guys feel about parents talking to other parents?
I don't know. I think it really depends on which friend, because we have groups of friends where it's our close friends, our one best friend, our close friends, our decently close friends, just friends, and then fake friends. So it really just depends on which category of friends the parent's from.
Yeah. So which one would you be okay with?
My best friend. Yeah. Yeah. I remember he flew to visit for his birthday, and we spent the day together, and my mom and his dad's girlfriend were just texting all the time, and they're like, oh, the kids are having fun. So that I'm okay with. Yeah. My closer school friends, I don't really care. It's kind of just, why do you need to? Yeah. And then any other friends, it's, what?
Yeah, it's weird. Like, we're not even talking to each other. Why do you need to talk to that? Yeah, I think that's fair. Okay, so chapter 6, independence and responsibility. What are some responsibilities you believe you should be allowed to have at your age?
Really just think it depends on the person. That's a big thing. I know responsibility, my parents, as I've gotten a little bit older, have given me more responsibilities and been able to trust me more. For example, they trust me enough to fly to Japan with my school and go.
Did you already go?
Well, I'm going in March.
That's so cool, by the way.
Yeah, it's super exciting.
Yeah.
But they thankfully trusted me enough to let me go to the other side of the world with my friends and my teachers on our own. And other people would have the idea where it's like, why would I let you do that? Something might happen. They're very paranoid. It depends on the kid. It depends on who's going. And I know from my school, they're doing this thing where only 30 of us get to go, and there's like 120 kids that wanted to go. So they're watching us, making sure that we're responsible enough to be able to go and all this stuff. So I really just feel like it depends on the person.
Yeah. How do you think parents can then help young people develop that independence and responsibility?
Probably by guiding them in a gentle manner, not an aggressive one.
Yeah.
And showing them it's okay to make mistakes, but you need to understand how to fix your mistakes and how you can do it on your own. Because I know my parents have always told me through elementary, going through middle school, and now I'm in high school, they're not always, teachers or adults aren't always going to be there to hold your hand. The first thing that I was told when I went to middle school in grade 5, the teachers aren't going to be there to hold your hand anymore. You need to learn some independence. First thing I got told when I went to high school, teachers not going to be there to hold your hands. You need to really learn how to do things on your own.
Yeah.
And I have adjusted to it, and I've learned how to do things on my own, but not everything is meant to be done on your own.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's well said too. Like, school is a good example of learning how young people manage responsibility.
Yeah.
If a parent is always on you to get stuff done, teachers are calling, saying, I'm not getting B's, assignments, maybe there's something as parents we need to do differently to help our kids. But most times when your child is getting their homework done, doing their 1,000 tests a week, like you mentioned, and mostly on top of it, I think those are always good signs of, okay, your independence is developing. I can tell you're being responsible. You told me you have a project due on Monday and you're working on it over the weekend. That's great.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So I think again, if we pay attention and watch, and like you said, talk less and just watch and listen, we could probably pick up on a lot more with our kids about, hey, you're actually killing it at that thing. I don't have to worry about it. Or, okay, I got to figure out how to help you with this one thing. Okay, chapter 7, understanding identity. This one's interesting because identity means so many different things today, I would imagine, for your age group.
Yeah.
Than it did for me.
Yeah.
For me, there was genders, there was male, there was female.
Yeah.
That was it. And identity starts to develop by 13, 14, biologically, as you're developing. You're getting to this age where, you probably know it too. It's things kids wonder about. How come we don't believe in God? How come we do believe in God? I want to cut my hair this way. I want to wear these clothes. I listen to this music. Like, you're starting to figure out
who you are as a person.
Yeah. Outside of your parents taking you to Old Navy and buying you the clothes. Now you're like, actually, I want to shop at this store. So, but now that's not just... That was complicated in my time.
Yeah.
Now there's like all these other complications attached to identity. Wouldn't you say?
Oh, big time.
Yeah. And I think part of the communication issue I'm noticing is that this is the part where young people and parents and maybe even adults at school or other adults around are in different parts of the room, like there's a big gap in between because the kids know way more now about these things than maybe some of the adults do.
Yeah.
How can parents and adults be more supportive and understanding about, individuality and identity? Like, what can we do that shows support in a way that you're like, okay, I can go to my mom or my dad or my caregiver and tell them, maybe I believe in this orientation, or maybe I don't know if I identify as a girl or a boy or what. There's so many different things now. So what would you say works really well if we as parents, were to take your advice when our kids are figuring this stuff out?
Well, the whole journey of figuring yourself out is so much more complicated than people understand. And a lot of people that are trying to figure themselves out people say, oh, you chose that. Why would you decide to do that? When we know ourselves that it's not a choice. A big thing is, why would we put ourselves through the constant either harassment or being bullied or having things said to us on purpose just for fun? Because we wouldn't. No normal person would say, I want to get bullied for fun because I think it's funny.
Yeah.
Because nobody, I would hope nobody says that.
Right.
So I feel like the journey just, it can be difficult as a parent to see your kid change big time. But you need to understand that sometimes you just need to let your kid figure things out themselves, and that it's our journey, not yours. Right. Because if it was your journey, things would be different. But it's our life. We're the ones trying to figure ourselves out, not you. And, you know, watching your kid grow up differently than how you thought could be heartbreaking, could be exciting. It doesn't matter because they're still your kid. You should love them unconditionally, no matter what they decide for themselves in their life. And how getting either upset or getting angry at them isn't helping them. It's just making them want to curl up into a ball and hide away. Mm-hmm. But if you're open about it and you're open to listen and you are trying your best to understand, that's all we could ask.
Yeah.
Because really, when someone says, why, like I said before, why would you choose that for yourself? Why did you decide? It's not like some people wake up one day and say, hey, I want to make the rest of my life miserable just because.
Yeah.
Because we don't. We just really want to try and figure ourselves out. And if you're there and being patient with us and helping us, it makes our journey so much easier.
So how would you know? Like, how would you know? What would a parent be doing that would show a young person that we are trying to understand and give you the space and be open when you're figuring yourself out?
Probably don't bring up what necessarily you believe all the time, but try and ask, like I said before, ask questions, but not questions that would make the person feel uncomfortable. I get if it's an accident, if you don't really realize that you're making them uncomfortable, but making jokes about it or saying things that are really disrespectful and you can tell is making your child uncomfortable, don't say it. Don't bring it up. Don't constantly share about it. Don't, tell everybody else. Just let your child do it at their own pace. Yeah. Because if you rush it, it's going to get overwhelming. And then we're not going to want to deal with it anymore. And we're not going to want to deal with you anymore. Mm-hmm. Not in a disrespectful way, but in a way where it's like, I want to distance myself because they made me uncomfortable and I don't want to be around that anymore.
Yeah, like you feel judged.
Yeah.
And often, I don't think the parent is trying to judge maybe some are, but like most parents aren't trying to judge their kid.
Yeah.
It's the fear and the worry and are you going to be safe or like you're going to get bullied. Yeah. Again, the things that often lead a lot of parents' decisions is fear-based, right? They want to make sure. It's like you talked about you love your cat.
Yeah.
Your cat does its own thing, but you kind of feel like responsible at the end of the day. And if your cat comes back all scratched up or something, it was his choice. Like we talked about, he's a gangster cat. He leaves the house. He goes outside. But maybe you feel bad because you love him and you wish, could I have maybe not let him out today? Should I have gone outside and moved that debris that's sitting there that he scratched himself? So we worry about those things.
Yeah.
I think it comes out in a judgy way then, right? Like it's more of a worry, but to you, it may look like I'm basically saying, oh my gosh, I don't want to be seen outside with you with that thick eyeliner or what do kids do now? I don't know. At my time, it was being emo and goth. That was the thing.
Yeah.
And is that still a thing now? Or can you still do that? Is it called something else now?
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, there's tons of different styles.
There's so many styles now, right?
There's Y2K. There's like emo, goth, grunge, preppy. I don't know.
And do some young people work through all of those styles? Or do you like, if I'm a preppy, I'm a preppy. If I'm a emo, I'm a emo. Or like, can I show up in my preppy clothes and then tomorrow I show up in my goth clothes? Like, does that happen with young people?
I feel like a lot of people are, like a lot of teenagers are very like preppy popular. So anybody who's anything else is like, ew. why are you like that?
So that is still a thing, the preppy popular,
yep.
Hey? What advice would you give to parents about respecting young people,
yep.
teenagers' choices and preferences?
Just let your kid decide what they want to decide. And if it affects them negatively in a way where they're going to get hurt. I'm not talking about if you're religious and they're doing something against your religion. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about if they're going to be harmed where they can get hurt, obviously watch out for them. Let them try it out and see what happens. Figuring out yourself is a lot of experimenting.
It is, right?
Yeah, trying new styles or figuring yourself out more.
Yeah. And I think in the realm of like identity and pronouns and all that, I think it's just also like being okay to have an open conversation with our kids and saying, this is new to me. I'm not familiar with this territory. You seem to know it a bit better than me. Can you teach me a little bit about this? Why would I be worried? What are some things that I would be worried about that I should look out for? Because sometimes you guys are the expert of a topic and we're not.
Yeah.
But we quickly become the expert because we're afraid.
Yeah.
And we jump to those fearful questions. But if I'm curious, as you've been saying throughout, maybe, I can learn a little bit through you about what do pronouns mean exactly to you, to our household? How do we have that conversation with maybe grandparents?
Yeah.
Do we even need to? I think it's okay to have these conversations. And I also think it's okay if we come out of the conversation and we're not on the same page. I think it's okay if, as your mom, maybe I don't understand. And as my child, you aren't influenced by me and you're saying, well, I get you don't understand, but here's the route I'm taking.
Yeah.
I think we try to stop each other or control each other, and then it just gets like crazy out of hand versus just like you said, give it some time, give it some curiosity and see where we can go with that and educate ourselves, read up on it, learn about it, figure out what does that mean? Because the world's changing.
Yeah.
And I hear you say that a lot, right? Okay, so we're getting there. Okay, we got chapter 8, 9, and 10. Chapter 8 is mental health and well-being. Chapter 9 is building trust. And chapter 10 would be looking ahead. Just a couple more questions. You good?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah? Okay. So for mental health and well-being for chapter 8, what are some signs that parents should look out for to gauge your mental health and, your guys' emotional well-being? So what are some things we can look out for that, help us think, okay, B's okay, or, ooh, maybe I'm worried about my kid. This is not just her being tired and them being tired and sleeping. This is something else. Like, what should I look for to know you're not well mentally and emotionally versus you are?
I feel like a big one is lashing out uncontrollably, sleeping a lot. One that gets mixed up a lot is always being in our room. Just because we're always in our room doesn't mean we're like depressed. It just means, or like if we're in the dark, it just means we're taking some time to relax. Another one is, I guess it just depends on the person, and look for some obvious signs, like I said, sleeping in or, constantly seeming drained, stuff like that.
Yeah. So like if I'm observant and again, looking for those signs along the way, and signs like the good things you do, learning about your personality.
Yeah.
Hopefully I can get to a place where I'd say, oh, you know what? This is different for my kid.
Yeah.
And maybe I'll ask them.
Yeah. Like of the ordinary.
Yeah. Out of the ordinary stuff. Right. And I like what you said about the bedroom, because you guys did spend a lot of time there. Yeah. But it would be like you going to your own apartment,
exactly.
I guess. It's your house, right?
It's like our zone.
Yeah. Stay out of it, sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
Okay. What about for building trust? Like, what can we do? I mean, you talked a little bit about respect and trust, but maybe you have something different you want to add. Like, what can we do to, if this was chapter 9, building trust, what would we need to do to earn your trust and maintain it?
Show that you have patience when we're talking about something or when we're explaining something, and show that you can follow through with your actions that you say you will.
Yeah.
Don't show us up. Don't leave us like say you're going to do something and then not end up doing it, unless it's like, obviously it's understandable if something comes up and you can't. But if you just kind of cancel just because. Just says you don't want to, even if it, like, you do, you just don't feel like it. Explain that.
Yeah. You guys are watching, aren't you? Like, you guys are paying attention.
Yeah.
And sometimes we don't realize that. We think they're kids. What do they know?
Yeah.
And we start thinking that, and we keep thinking that.
Yeah.
And maybe some kids start out that way, but definitely by the time you're a teenager, you're watching us.
We're always, like, there's nothing that goes on that we don't know about.
Especially the oldest kids, and you're the oldest one too in your house,
oh my gosh, yeah. Everything that happens, we know about if we say it or not. You think that we don't know, but we know. We just don't say that we know.
So it's best that we are honest with you, because chances are you already know that maybe the parents are having an argument, or we decided to not go on that vacation, or something really stressful is happening in our house and we're trying to protect you from it. Yeah. But you can usually tell, right? Yeah. So just like we're watching you, I think we have to remember you guys are watching us too.
Yeah.
Right? It's like you said, it goes both ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything goes both ways.
Right. So the fact that you are aware already, sometimes it's like you're just waiting for us. Like, it's like that trust earning opportunity.
Yeah.
Because we do it to you. So why wouldn't you do it to us too? Yeah. Be like, I know my mom's not going to do this thing. Now let's see if she tells me, sort of thing. Yeah. Right. And I think we do that with you guys too. And I think sometimes we just have to come out and be honest with each other to keep building that. Hey?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So last but not least, we're looking ahead. So, I know you're 14. I'm sure with the amount of homework and tests and planning, would this be an age where you guys start talking about, your aspirations and dreams and future? Does this kind of start at this age? Yeah, for you?
Yeah. For me, I know it already has. We've been talking about it for a little while. So
what are your dreams and aspirations?
Well, for a career, I want to do tattoos and piercings, even though it's not something that's very much liked.
Because of your art.
Yeah,
you like
the artistic skills. And I wouldn't get too many tattoos, but I love drawing and painting. And the human body is like a canvas for art. Whether you're at school and you're drawing or you're getting a tattoo, even though it's not necessarily the best to draw on yourself, I don't suggest it.
Yes,
but,
yes.
Your body is a blank canvas, and as long as you're being careful, that's the biggest thing.
Right.
Then do what you'd like. And then piercings. I really like piercing. I've liked it for a little bit. And then also psychiatrist.
Ooh, yeah.
Would be another one. I feel like maybe tattoos and psychiatry.
Ooh, maybe you're doing therapy while you're doing someone's tattoo.
Oh,
maybe it's like a new age thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, you come in for a tattoo, but you leave feeling like, hey, I can handle my life problems or whatever it is. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's good that you are thinking about your future. And, sometimes young people know at a young age what they're going to do, and they go do it. And some think they know and they change. I mean, like, that's life. And sometimes as an adult, we change careers. I would never have thought that I would have quit my job a year ago, but here I am, right?
Yeah.
And so things happen in life. And I think the key is, though, looking ahead. And when we were looking at like mental health and well-being, I think that's also a good sign when we're doing future planning that you are doing well and you are thinking maybe it's just really crappy right now, but I can work towards, my future or these other things that are coming up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I have a couple more things left here. And then I think this chapter book, we're going to go on a book tour. I think you and I are, where there's something that's going to happen here. I mean, you're going to go on a book tour. Maybe I'll get to join you, but we didn't really hit on social media. So do you mind if we just touch on that?
Yeah, sure.
I had it under chapter 1, like understanding our world, but I thought we'd just talk about it separate. So a couple things for you. What should we know, like parents, what should we know about the social media landscape? Like, you and I were talking about this earlier. You were born into a world where this is sort of how it's been, and it's been developing, and it's probably naturally, I would imagine, made sense.
Yeah.
Where we are at with. But my generation and up, and maybe even the one below me, I don't know. But definitely at my point, it came later.
Mm-hmm.
All this stuff is coming later.
Yeah.
So I know I'm in a different place than maybe others are. And I'm curious for you, like what should we as parents know about when it comes to you guys and your social media?
I feel like, for me, I don't have social medias except for Instagram and Snapchat, so I don't really know too much about it.
Yeah.
But I know for my friends, it's really big because they have all these other social medias. And I know from them, they get a lot of, it can be a very interesting place, social media. It's like a whole other world.
Yes.
And a lot of it is just filled with a lot of people either sharing photos from the beach or being very not necessarily appropriate online.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's just really the biggest thing is being aware of what's right and wrong. And once you know what's right and wrong, you can decide whether it's okay for you and your kid to be able to have a conversation about it, whether you're constantly on their back, always checking, or whether you're a little more relaxed and whether you're more trusting of them to make the decision and decide what they're looking at is right or wrong.
Right. Yeah. So. Yeah, because I think it's like a tough world to be in, navigate sometimes. And it's just this technology, like our handheld devices. I think a lot of young people are younger and younger with getting phones. And so, and then each household's different. So, you know, there might be a group of parents that I'd say yes and a group of parents that don't, and all these kids go to school. So you're figuring that out. But also, like you even mentioned, you're in a digital media kind of a class. So like even at school, you guys get to be part of these potential courses and classes that are connected to social media, where that was obviously never, like marketing was different in my time. Mm-hmm. So I think what I hear you saying too is figure it out together.
Yeah.
But figure it out. Yeah. And to each their own. Mm-hmm. Right. Okay. So how can parents know that they're doing a good job?
In general, as parenting.
Yeah. How would I know? What would I know from my kid that I'm doing a good job as mom?
If other people are coming to you and telling you positive things about your kid.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah. You shouldn't have to ask people or go up and say, how's my kid doing? If someone just comes up to you and said, oh, your kid is so polite, that's when you know you're doing a really good job as a parent.
That's a nice one to hear.
Yeah.
Anything that kids would do or teens would do or say that would tell parents that? I'm just fishing for compliments.
If they're respecting you as much as you would like, then you know that they're actually wanting to give you the time. And not if it's fake respect where you're making them respect you. If it's respect as in they're just doing it from their heart.
Yeah. See, a lot of what you talked about today, and I'm imagining people are picking up as they're listening, is the relationship between a teenager and their parent really depends on sort of these little chapters that we talked about. And we can't expect our kids to just respect us. We can't expect our kids to just be afraid and to know. Mm-hmm. We have to work together.
Yeah.
And a lot of the work is me as a mom being very aware of how am I teaching you? Yeah. What's my style? Mm-hmm. Am I a yeller? Am I going to go angry? Am I fearful? Am I afraid? All these things are going to impact my relationship with my kid.
Yeah.
And so I hear you loud and clear when you say, like, get to know your kid and ask questions, right? Is there anything that you wish I had asked you, or maybe there's a chapter we didn't even bring up that you think should be part of this conversation?
I feel like one important thing wouldn't really be a whole chapter, but it's just letting your teen be a kid. And I know a lot of adults are like, oh, you should be a kid. You're still a kid. Enjoy it. But a lot of teenagers feel like we have to grow up too fast. We're expected too much of us, and we can't really be a kid. I know for me, I'm trying to go trick-or-treating with my friends this year, even though we're 14. Yeah, a lot of people are like, it doesn't matter. And then other people are like, oh, you're too old. You're not a little kid anymore. Don't go. But we're still kids from the heart. A lot of us either had to grow up too fast or didn't grow up fast enough, and we got rushed into it, not necessarily by parents, but by peers. Mm-hmm. I know for me, a lot of people expected me, not my parents, but school peers, and other people expected too much of me growing up. So now I'm more mature than a lot of my friends would be in some cases.
Yeah.
So just let us be kids. Let us enjoy it. Because once we're adults and we can't go back. Just like you. If you didn't enjoy your time and be a kid when you were a teenager, that's your fault.
Yeah.
Not necessarily, but that's you.
Yeah.
Let me do me. Don't bring that out.
Don't put my history onto you.
Exactly.
Thank you for saying that, because you're in a weird place, as we said at the beginning. You're not a kid. You're not an adult. You're in between.
Yeah.
But you're right. The fact of the matter is you're not the adult yet. You're still learning and you're growing and you're becoming an adolescent. And, you know, the Halloween thing, I'm glad you brought that up, because that's such an interesting thing. I was reading articles about it too. Like, there's a lot of mixed feelings out there when people open the door and they have teenagers, maybe your age, maybe older, showing up.
Yeah.
And so there's all sorts of things out there about, if they're not in a costume, I'm not giving them candy, or I'm going to tell them they're too old. And, you know, there was a point where I thought that too. I'm like, man, sometimes these young people are lazy. They're just showing up with a pillowcase for candy. But then you think, you know what? I would way rather my 16, 17-year-old go in their hoodie to someone's house and ask for candy than be out doing something super risky or
that you can't take back.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. You know what I mean? So I think, you know, it's the adults that I can't stand that come to the door and ask for the candy.
Yeah, that's totally
that's what I'm like, please don't do that. But you're right. Like, you guys need to feel that you can still be a kid. And I think even as adults, we have to still be kids.
Yeah.
We can't forget that. And so that's a really good point. Really well said. We'll add that chapter in there. Hey? Okay, so now you get to do a call to action. So what, out of all these chapters, out of everything we've talked about today, what do you hope is the one thing the listeners take away with them? If it's the only thing they took today, what do you want that to be?
Be patient with the teenagers that are either your kids, friends' kids, the teenagers that surround you, because a lot of us just want to be respected like you would respect any other person.
Yeah. Yeah. Feel worthy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's how you build your self-esteem and your security as well.
Yeah.
Right? Is like us helping you feel worthy and validated.
Yeah.
And when we talk to you like you're not seen, I would imagine that doesn't contribute to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well said, man. I just want to take a moment and thank you again for coming on. I had told your mom that I would only take an hour, and we are 2 hours in. I learned so much sitting here with you, and I know it takes work. And I think for those that are listening, it's just a reminder that these conversations are door openers. And I hope that as adults, we continue to keep these doors open with our young people so that we can help them be functioning members of society. Because at the end of the day, isn't that what we want?
Yeah.
We want you to grow up to be a healthy individual that contributes out there. And so I'm feeling like you're doing a great job getting there. So nice work. Thank you again for coming on. If anybody has feedback or anything they want to add to our book, to our conversation, you know where to find us. And please bring that feedback in. We always appreciate it. If you have some questions or you want us to bring B back, let us know. Maybe start doing some segments and B comes on every now and then and answers some questions from you folks. So let us know. Obviously, there's a lot here that we all took. So I think you'd be okay coming back.
Oh, of course.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Awesome. I love it. Okay. Well, thank you.